September 10th, a tragedy struck America. A father was killed, a political activist who was the voice of millions was silenced, and our United States got a little bit darker through the engagement in political violence. It's my duty to condemn this violence and to condemn the rhetoric that led to it. I don't make this video to point fingers, and I also don't make it to say it's a both sides thing. I make this video with the hope that it'll awaken us to the most important thing of all, that if we make a decision today to turn away from this harmful rhetoric and to seek reconciliation with our countrymen, it won't matter who struck first. Peace is more important than an accounting of guilt. In the last few days, I spent a lot of time on X. I've been arguing for understanding, for compassion, and for forgiveness. Something I hear often in these discussions from fellow Christians who align with the conservative party is anger, confusion, frustration, fear, and a refusal to back down. They feel the need to condemn their enemies, to state that they're the only ones with bad behavior. But the truth must have its day. The party of personal responsibility seems to have started passing the buck, saying, it's not my problem, it's those leftists. I'm not going to say that there isn't a contingent of people on the far left who are distasteful. But it seems to me that many Christians have lost their pulse on their enemy's party. Nearly every Democratic senator has come forward and denounced this assassination. They cannot control the actions of lost souls who take glee in the death of another man. And to generalize an entire group of people like that will only lead us to destruction. Where are you planning to take this vengeance? On a stranger? A Democrat who stood against this political violence? It must end. It can end. You may hate them, but God routinely calls his people to love and minister to those they hate. Think of Jonah, who hated the Ninevites so much he tried to run from God's command to save them, only to be swallowed by a whale and taken to minister them anyway. He calls us to forgive those who have personally wronged us, just as Joseph forgave his brothers for selling him into slavery. And we, through Christ, believe all souls can be redeemed, even the most heinous of villains, just like Saul of Tarsus became the Apostle Paul. Even if you see them as evil, it is still our duty as Christians to witness to them. Who has to die next? I don't want anyone else to experience what Charlie and his family just suffered. No one deserves that. Every person deserves a chance to live their life. Vengeance is not ours to claim. It belongs to God. We are called to be like the father of the prodigal son, waiting with open arms for those who have lost their way, ready to welcome them home. But this isn't just about avoiding a fight. It's about a Christian's duty to pursue something far greater than that. A true and active peace. This is the kind of peace that's more than just the absence of conflict. It's about pursuing wholeness, justice, and the restoration of broken relationships. It's the peace that can't exist in a community where hatred and division are a festering wound. Peacemakers don't just avoid conflict. They actively move toward it, willing to speak hard truths to create a path for reconciliation. My fellow Christians, we must unify behind a message of nonviolence. If we don't, we risk losing the light that God gave us to shine on the world. If we fall into choosing sides, into partisanship and bias, into the demonization of our enemies, we will have lost the very thing that Jesus gave us. The question we have to ask ourselves now is, have we forgotten what that kind of love looks like? Have we forgotten the power of that radical peace? The Sermon on the Mount says it best. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. This isn't just some impractical notion from a distant time. As Martin Luther King Jr., a fellow Christian and a student of nonviolence, taught us, our resistance to evil should never seek to humiliate an opponent, but to win their friendship and understanding. The goal is always redemption and reconciliation. It's about defeating the injustice, and not the people caught up in it. In a world that tells you to fight fire with fire, this is the radical countercultural power of the gospel. It's what breaks cycles of violence and builds a beloved community where former adversaries can become friends. The Civil Rights Movement, Martin Luther King Jr., and the Black Church leading a movement with nonviolent resistance. Abolition, Quakers and Methodists at the forefront of the fight against slavery. Compassion and war. Christians who hid Jewish families during the Holocaust, like Corrie ten Boom, and German pastors like Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who resisted Hitler. Our ongoing humanitarian work, the Salvation Army, Catholic Charities, and countless other Christian relief groups feeding the hungry, responding to disasters. These are not just historical footnotes. They are our spiritual heritage. They are the moments when Christianity was at its best, when we chose reconciliation over retaliation, when we sought peace instead of vengeance. Now imagine if healing America's divide was on that list. Imagine the glory that would bring to God. As a fellow Christian and a Baptist minister, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. told us that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. He understood that we are all part of one body, and when one part is sick, the entire body suffers. He also rejected the idea that we can ever be separate from one another, saying that anyone who lives inside the United States can never be considered an outsider anywhere within its bounds. As the Utah governor said to those taking glee in Charlie's death, I say also to Christians falling into violent rhetoric, let's look in the mirror and try and find that better angel. If all the violence and nasty rhetoric ended today, would we really care for an accounting of who did what? If we could all commit ourselves to peace, it wouldn't matter. We could leave this all behind in search of a brighter tomorrow in Charlie's memory.